Hello fellow map makers, welcome to another live map making session. Glad to be back. It's been a while since I've been live here. Last week was Remy, and I hope you enjoyed his take on the latest Cartographers Annual. And please let me know whether the sound is okay. Yeah, I got the confirmation from Sue. Thank you, Sue. Sound seems to be fine. Alright, then we're set for another hour of mapping tonight. Tonight I want to take a look at City Designer and specifically at basically messing with the default styles and creating stuff that does not come directly out of the box. I have I had a question on support whether City Designer could do Western towns, and it doesn't really do that out of the box. Of course, it has different styles of buildings and things, and it's not set up to do things like what we think of when we think, or I think of at least, towns from Westerns with freshly built wooden buildings, the typical high street where the showdown takes place, and everything with a dusty street, and so on. I thought a bit about it and thought it would make a good topic for showing on the live mapping session to see how you adapt an existing style and collection of symbols and fill styles to do something a little off the track, something it wasn't directly meant to do. So we'll take a City Designer style tonight and see how we can modify it and add stuff to it to make a bit of a Western scene. And I'm not actually talking about doing area style maps because that would look very different, more like a battle map style for role-playing games or computer game stuff where you've got a top-down view and can move tokens or miniatures around on if you use that and print them up. Alright, so let's see how we're gonna go about it. As always, if you've got any questions, please do post them in the chat, and we'll see that we can answer and show stuff relating to them during this session. Okay, so let's see how we go on here. We are going to start out by just first creating a new map in the City Designer style to give us the basis. So I'm going to click New Map. I'm not going to change my settings here. Map type Cities. And then I've got to decide which one I want to base my new style on. We've got different versions of maps. I'm actually seeing that I've got the Bogey and CSUAC styles here, which is a free download available from our website or via the forum actually. But I'm going to stick with the default style City Designer, I think. We could go for the bitmap B style, but that's a little bit more hand-drawn looking and more suited to fantasy, while the bitmap A style can be a little bit more realistic and so might be more suitable for our purpose here. So let's go with that and click Next. And then I'm going to set the size of my map. I just want to create a small scene, not a full town or even city. So I'm going to make this a bit smaller. So let's say, let's go with 250 by 200 size map. We can always enlarge that later if we find it's too small. And here I do not want because I'm thinking of a desert or wasteland town, I do not want the green background, so I'm going to click Next to change my background. And here we've got different ones available from the two. There's actually fill styles for both City Designer bitmap styles in there, CD3 and B. So let's see what we want to do here, and we're going to go for some Earth style bitmap fill here. All right. And then I'm going to click Finish and save my map in my video folder. Streams Frontier Town. And that's what I call it, Frontier Town. Here we are, and there's our blank map. So what kind of buildings do I imagine for this stuff? First off, wooden buildings, wood shingles probably as well, not tiles, not stone or ceramic tiles on the building roofs, more like wood shingles or planks, wooden planks. And we do have some of that in CD Designer. As you can see, if I take a look here at the default symbols, or the default, so that comes, loads as the first symbol. We've got the simple wooden buildings with the wood shingles as one of the default styles. If we wanted to go for a different style, actually I've still got another. If you're wondering why my color palette is kind of muted, that's because I created a muted color palette for a previous style and set it as the default palette, and that's why it shows like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my default palette in here and save that, and so that way we're back at the default campaign cartographer style. So if you wanted to have something even lighter in color-wise, I could go for a light yellow here or a lighter brown and use those, but I'm quite happy with this style here. What I'm not so happy about is the stone chimneys we have. So I'm thinking this Frontier Town is so new and stuff that people will not right away build stone chimneys. So they probably have ovens with stove with iron pipes or stuff sitting in the buildings, and stone chimneys are not quite what I imagine at this point. Perhaps for some of the older buildings. So I'm not going to use the default symbols out of the box. Instead, I'm going to take a look and see that I can create a style or use a house style that has this without the frills. For that, I'm going to click the house symbol here, and I can already see I do have the CD3 default style and also a version without frills, which doesn't have the chimneys. See, it's probably too small. Let's show a couple of the buildings here on screen. If I draw in the default style, there they get the chimneys. And if I use the one without the frills, I get the same style without the chimneys in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that style, and I'm actually going to create a copy and save this under a new name so I can later load it up with, if I decide to create a new style for this, and I'll basically tidy it up a little bit. Oops, that was a misclick. So I'm going to go into the house command and go to settings. And since I've selected it last, I do have the CD3A default no frills style in here. And for now, for this one, I don't want to make any changes to it. So I'm just going to save this as our the default Western style. So I'm just going to go save and give this Frontier Town default as the style. Oops, there's a typo in there. Okay, and if we take a look here, we should find this style in here. It does look exactly the same as the existing one. Alright, so let's put in a couple buildings or a few buildings in this style. I'm going to, just for reference, first I'm going to grab one of the simple buildings in here and place it down. So I just perhaps take the second one, so just have a reference for size. Put this back here, so I have have an idea. And I already see that my grid is fairly large, and for a small scene like this I will probably need a smaller grid. So I'm going to adjust my grid by right-clicking the grid button. See here, there's a 20-foot grid. It's a bit large for drawing small houses and scenes, so I'm going to go for the 10-foot 2-snap grid, and I can always edit it or create my own one if I need even smaller grid sizes. Here we go. So what I'm going to do first, I think, is I'm going to lay down a street, just a straight street running through the middle, and then I can group my houses around that and work with that. So let's see what it does if I just go street and go from one side of the map to the other, and there we've got a cobble street as the horribly pixelated because I'm so small. If I zoom in, you see it's not the pixelation is not so bad, but a cobblestone fill, and certainly not what I want to do. It's also a fairly narrow at just 3 meters or 10 foot, so I do want to change this completely. I do want to keep it on the sheet and the layer and everything, so I'm gonna make some adjustment here first and change the properties. So let's make it a lot wider first. So what do you think, how wide would a main street in a western town, the typical western, be? 10 meters or less, at least. So let's make it 40 feet wide. And we do, line width there. And I do want a style. I've got the different earth styles, but I might be wanting something else. Although for now, let's do just a different earth style. Perhaps let's try one of this brown cobble, red earth, brown earth. Let's grab one from the bitmap B style of CD Designer. Just, I can change the color. Oh, it didn't save this. Okay, that's default file. Save this. Reload custom pole. Okay, let's have a quick look. Yeah, hopefully it's saved now. Okay, let's just for completeness sake make this also brown, though we won't see that color because it's a bitmap fill style, and that will be used for everything. And okay, and here's my road, and I'm not too thrilled about the style. I think it's too meant for larger scale city maps, and as you can see, it does get a bit pixelated at this scale. I do want something else, and I didn't have the fill styles I wanted for this kind of detail level in here, and I'm thinking of some nice styles that Dungeon Designer has, so I do want to import some new bitmap films into the map. So let's go in there and do that, and for that I'm going to draw insert file, because if I insert another map into this map, it will add all the bitmap fills from that style to it. And but I don't want to import a whole map, so I'm going to go to a special folder we have in the program data folder of CD3 Plus. It's under System Fill Styles, and in there you'll find pre-created drawings with just the fill styles of the different map types and styles that you can just insert into the map, which are just meant for inserting the bitmap fills in here. And here you'll find dungeon color. That's the DD3 style. So I'm just gonna grab that, open it, and click in the map. And it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't have any content in terms of entities. It just has the fill styles. So if I go in now, in here, you'll see we've got a longer list, and we've got all the Dungeon Designer styles in here. You might know these. There's also some wooden fills which I want later, and the nicer brown earth styles I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to change properties again, select our road, and go for one of the dungeon designer styles. Not the grass, but the dirt, and I think the 2 looks about right. Here we go, and there's my style, and I'm thinking perhaps the fill is a bit too small, or my road is too wide. So what I want to do is I want to change I'm thinking my road should be a little bit narrow, so I'm going to do 30 feet instead. And I can also go in and take a look at my fill. It's the grass, dirt, brown 2 map here, and it's scaled to 10 foot. Let's make that 20 foot, so just enlarging the fill style a little bit. There we go. And let's turn on sheet effects and see what our road here, and there you can see we do have a bit of an edge fade here. It's might still look a bit odd at the moment because it's so very straight, but we'll go about that later and change stuff there. And for now, I'm happy with my main road. So as a question is whether there's a fill styles file for every style, we have no. It's just for the main ones and some of the many of the annuals, but we don't have one for everything. But for quite a lot, they're numbered by the styles, and then we'll can see. You can always add a empty map create an empty map in the different style, import that. You might have to delete the map border and stuff from that if you insert it. But you don't actually need to place the map in the map. You just have to do the draw insert file stuff without clicking, and then it will just add the fill styles. Alright, so here we go. Now I want to add some buildings. I was gonna go to my house style here, my front yard default, and the roof type is fine. And now I do want to go, just gonna go in and add a couple buildings. We've got space, lots of space in this town, so probably not be bothered about building the houses directly next to each other. And there's, I'm going to remove the reference one, don't need it anymore. And so that's the first houses I want to put down. Now I can go in and do stuff like add extensions. So for example, if I want an awning to a building, we have some symbols for that. In the CD Designer catalog, I just can grab one here, turn off the snap, and these will align to the building. Oops, there we go. I thought it, there was it. I missed it the first time. There we go. Let's move in, and I see I placed it there the wrong way around. So let's. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the previous one here to where I want it, but I do see that it is, the awning should really be below the main roof. So let's take a look how this is set up. If I click on this, and that's because it goes on the symbol sheet, and the normal symbol sheet is above the buildings. Which makes sense if we place the buildings, the house symbols on its own stuff, but it can really be either way. And I could just move the symbols up there, but I also might want other symbols that go on top of the roofs. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to add a symbols below roof sheet. Move that up so it's before the building sheet in here. I'm going to grab all the same stuff and effects from the default symbol sheet, place that there, and then I'm going to move this symbol to the new sheet. And that's how I like it. I've got a nice wooden awning here above the doorway probably, so that's working fine. So, but I'm now also thinking about some buildings that might not have gabled roofs. Some with a flat roof. That's also something you quite see, especially in drier climates where you're not too worried about snow or rain having to run off the building. And classic scene is of people on top of the roofs shooting down at the bank robbers in the west or something like that. So we do need some space on the roof for that. And I do want to create a flat roofed building to go along with the rest here. And for that we'll probably need a new roof style, or house style. I'm going to click. I can go for this here and just put a flat roof part on this in this style, but if you look at this, turn on snap again, it doesn't look very nice or fitting for this. It's just a brownish white space in the middle of the tapered roof, and that's not something we want. So we do need to take a bit of a look and create a new style for this. So I'm gonna go, let's here, go in the settings again. Sorry. Just a second. So hopefully that is better. And I'm going to create a new one, frontier town and flat roof. Here we go. And now we do need a flat color here for the flat part, or actually I want a fill style for this part here, and here I'm gonna go for a wooden roof as well, but not tiles. You wouldn't place those on a flat roof. What you need there is planks. So we're gonna go wood floor, pine, horizontal. This is also from the Dungeon Designer style, and as you can see the alignment is off this way. It will always be horizontal, but we can check here this to align the bitmap fill style to the roof sides. So this needs to be checked, and the stuff around doesn't quite look. It should be not have a tapering roof like this. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna turn off all the frills, like the roof ridge here, so we don't have the ridges. We still get the shadows here. What we were gonna do is we are gonna simply make this very narrow, just half a foot, and we are about set. We can also make this show, this is the outside actually, and we want to make this flat, as we don't want the edges to be basically angled. So what the shading does is, unfortunately with the light setting, it does change the color and lighting of the bitmap fills. That's why the colors do look a bit different from the normal style. We can play around with that and try to make this darker by, for example, darkening the colors. Or can we? No, I don't think so, actually. I'm talking nonsense. It's back. Why it's not saving? Might be because of... okay. This that irritates me, that I always go back to my custom palette. I'm not quite sure why. Let's have a look later in the map settings. Just a second. I was gonna go and try whether this changes anything if I change the coloring here. No, it does. Of course not. That was a mistake on my part, because it's a bitmap fill. The color has no effect. Alright, so let's just give this a quick try and add the rooftop here. There we go. And with the shading, with the shadows, that looks quite okay. The only thing is odd that I've got the bitmap fill of the tiles around here, around the edge, and I've got the tile edges. This is something I need to change. So I'm going to go edit, undo. And I think I forgot to save the house setting. Just a second, I do want to go into my drawing properties and the palette, and I'm going to attach it to the drawing. That way I can securely change this and save the in here, attach this to the drawing, and now it should not change again. Let's hope so. And I get this right, we'll see. Alright, so I'm gonna go back into the house settings. It did remember actually back to the town default style because I didn't save in between. So I'm gonna go save this over the flat roof again. So I'm keeping these settings. And now I do want to change the edge so I don't have the tile shaped edges of the roof, and this is defined in the house style here in this file, and that's because the wooden tile roof has this defines the half circle shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna go to blank, so it doesn't have any specific shape and it's only straight the edge. And then I do want to change the bitmap, so I don't want the wood tiles. Instead I'm also gonna go for some planks, but darker planks, if I can find them. Down here, and the walnut is the darkest of the colors, and I'm also gonna go for a different orientation, so it shouldn't be visible very much. And this time I'll not forget to save the style. Click OK, and I'm also going to go to the style in here. Right. And there we are. And that's more like it. See, I've got the straight edge of the roof now, and the darker bitmap fill. Thinking I might want to mess a bit with the effects, perhaps. We should be on the building sheet. Yeah, buildings here. And have a look at we've got two glows. I can see the darker one outside and probably another one on the inside. This is the outside glow, as you can see up here. And then we've got the inside glow. Yeah, and this is this gray, and I don't think it does look so good on this style. So what I'm gonna do in here, I could go on straight black and make it a bit smaller. Or let's see, it's pretty dark, but I think it's okay. I quite like that, so I'm gonna keep this style. And there we are, and here we've got our new house style for the flat roof buildings. Alright, and then I'm gonna add a couple more houses. I'm gonna go with the default building in here. Space. Can also even perhaps for once put a couple together. Or actually, I don't quite like this with the gable here. It doesn't seem right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an extension instead. And for that I go into the house building, grab the extension in here, insert. I need to click a point within the house first. I want to add the extension to, then the edge of the house, then I define the distance, and there we are. And that looks much more like it. And now I want to go for another flat roof building. Oops, no, I do need to change the type. I was still on the extension. I didn't want to draw an extension. I just want to draw a simple house shape. There we are. All right, so far so good. And I've got just a few buildings down. I don't want to go further. Obviously, I want to add more at a later time. I'm just doing the basics, basically setting up my map with a few examples and see how I want to go about that. Remy mentioned some wagon tracks, of course, earlier, which would be very nice on this style. And well, I see that we create one in a bit. But for now, what I do want to add is these kinds of wooden walkways along the buildings that you often see, basically to protect from the mud and the dirt. That in a rain storm or something, a dirt road like this will just turn into a big field of mud, probably. And so it's nice to have some wooden boardwalks, sidewalks, to give a bit of a better access to the buildings. I don't know, are they called boardwalks, sidewalks? I'm not entirely sure how those would be called. Someone mentions some vegetable gardens and flower beds. Yes, of course, also stuff that can be added. So for now, I do want I'm going to take a look at the sidewalks. But I'm not set anything up for that, obviously. And so we can see that we do need some, we've got the buildings low stuff here, and then the roads, and between those two should probably be the boardwalks or sidewalks. So let's just do a sidewalk sheet. Up here, I don't need any dikes in this style, so I'm just going to delete this sheet. So sidewalk, and for that let's create also a layer for that, so if everything nicely organized. And these should obviously, whoops, what happened there? Okay, what did I do to that building there? That's weird. That was weird. Okay, let's try again. Just did I still draw an extension accidentally and then clicked once more somewhere off to the side? That's possible. Oh. It looks fine now. Thought it looked like this earlier. Anyway, here we go. I'm still working on the sidewalk, and for that we do need a wooden fill style, obviously. And we're gonna grab the same planks. Oh, we've got some planks here. Well, that's probably the same as the walnut floor or the oak floor, and I'm gonna go for the pine for a fresher look. Here we go. Okay, and I'm just gonna draw a polygon to start with. So I'm just gonna extend this over the street a little bit here, and draw it inside the houses here. Oh, okay, and what I've done, I've failed to set the line width to 0. That's what happened, so I'm going to do change line width, right click and set it by prior, the entity I've just drawn, press D for do it, and oh, and I'm changing the line style accidentally. Okay, I clicked the wrong. Let's do that again. Not line style, but line width, prior. Oh, there we go. do it in line with 0. There we are. Okay, well, it looks quite okay. Just we do need some sheet effects on that. So we probably want a bit of a, these will probably sit on stilts, and so we could do with a drop shadow. But I'm not going to use the default drop shadow because I want to have everything affected by the same lighting, the global lighting, and so I'm going to use a wall shadow direction instead and mark it as draw as drop shadow. And then I'm going to do a foot length, say half of that as a blur. Map units, so this tells the effect that it always should use the direction of the global sun for those, or if we change that at some point, these drop shadow effects will change with that. There we go, so we've got a nice little drop shadow on that. And then I think what looks good to give it a little bit more three-dimensionality. So as you can see, it's got a very sharp edge, is to add a little, very small bevel to the sheet. So I'm going to sheet, lighted bevel again, because I want the shadow on this, but the like just a quarter foot. And apply. That's probably perhaps a bit too small. We see nothing of that. Let's have a quick look. Zoom in a little bit farther. No, it might be because the order of the sheets. Yeah, there we are. We needed a different one, but I even think this is a bit too wide, the shadow. So what we're going to do is we go back to our originally planned quarter foot. There we go. And I think that's nice. So, and because I don't want to always go back to this setup and start from scratch, I'm going to create a drawing tool for that. It's always handy. I'm going to keep it in the same style, so I can always later refer to that. And I'm not assigned it to any button, so I will need to right-click the all City drawing tools to access it, but that should be fine. Bitmap A, and I've got the dirt road here, so I could also create a road for my own style here, but for now I'm just going to go next and let's start from one of the square styles, and I'm just going to preface these with frontier town, so I can always find this easily, and so just call it sidewalk. And I'm going to do a H for horizontal with it, so I know that I've got the version of the bitmap fill that is horizontal. And now I'm going to go into properties, and I'm going to choose my settings here. I was working on the sidewalk. I'm going to put it on the sidewalk sheet, but I add an asterisk so I can later add another sidewalk sheet with an extension and still have this tool work with that. And for the fill style, I'm going to go for the horizontal pine fill style. Color I can adjust if I want to use something specific, but it doesn't affect the appearance at this stage. And there we are. And save the setting, and I can now use this to draw basically the same down here. And have my sidewalk at the south side of the street as well. Okay, all right, there we go. And what I now want to, these are probably a bit wide at this point, so I could extend the street a bit and make these narrower. Yeah, they do feel a bit too wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just adjust these a bit. No, I want to use the and there I get too narrow in front of the buildings. Or no, I think it's fine. There we go. It looks better. I just need to make the road. Or I could keep this. Oh, though the churned up road dirt would extend right up to these. Oh, I'm going to leave it at this for now. I think I quite like it. What I want to do is I want to add a few little steps. So where you would step onto the sidewalk, and we do need a little extra sheet for that. And easiest then is to just do another sidewalk sheet and use the same tool for that. So I'm going to do sidewalk step. Move this below the other one, but I'm going to copy all the sheet effects over. And now I'm going to go in and look for my one and create a new one and call this the vertical version. I'm going to go in the properties and change it to the vertical bitmap. Here we go. And now I can I do need a smaller grid for that though, because I'm going to use the standard rectangular grid. That's usually very small. It's just a 1 foot grid with 4 snaps, I think, on default. Yeah. So let's. What is it? Oh, it's a 1 inch spacing. Okay, that's very small. So let's create a new one instead. So 1 foot for snap grid. Well, that's a 1 foot 2 snap setting. So 1 foot, 2 snap divisions, 1 foot. Okay. Okay. And now I can I should be changing the fill style. I'm still at the 10 foot fill style, line width here, I mean. So let's change and go into the setting here, properties. Okay. It's not set to use the current properties. No, it should be at 0 line width. Okay, let's have a look. Yep, seems to be working fine now. I think I was not working inside the drawing tool anymore when this happened earlier. And there's my little step up onto the platform. I could add more if I wanted to, but I don't think the sidewalk is so high that it needs more than one step to get up there, so I'm fine. And I can, if I want to add more, I could just copy this. So for once I can just use extract properties, copy this one to here, and then over to the other side, one here at the end. Same on the north side. And if I wanted some on the edge towards the street, I would probably grab the horizontal one . of a misclick there. There we go. And I can now grab this and copy that around. And this way we've added a nice little detail to our sidewalks that makes them a little bit more believable. And I've copied a few too many. There we go. All right, so here we are with that, and we can now turn to our next things we want to do. For example, we were talking about the wagon tracks. So if we wanted a few simple wagon tracks on the map, we should probably set up a bit of a sheet for that. This should obviously be above the roads as well, because the tracks will be visible on the roads, but below our sidewalk. So let's call it wagon tracks. And then I'm going to start by drawing a simple dark brown line on the dirt. So let's go to a solid fill. Or what we could do is we could do not as a color, but as a partially transparent fill style. They are not in here actually. Oh, that's something I wasn't aware of, that the City Designer style doesn't have, most styles have these in by default. But I could add them, or no, I'm gonna go with a solid style on this one and do a transparency effect on the sheet instead. Alright, so let's just draw a line first without bothering about the drawing tool. We'll set that up later. And I'm thinking I'm going to keep the grid on, but the small one, I do want to make them not totally straight. That will look a bit weird. So let's do these. But there we just have a narrow line. So we do need a certain width for that, and a second line, of course, for the other half of the for the track. So let's change the line width to something. How wide would a wagon track be? Probably a bit wider than the wheel itself, by pushing the dirt and stuff. With several wagons roll along the same way, they will widen the track a little bit. So let's try 1/2 foot. I think that looks quite nice. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to copy this and copy it by the width of the distance between the two sides of the wagon. So let's go for so just going to be a top-down difference along the y-axis, and we can do that by putting in, actually copy from a point, and it's probably easiest if I just look at the tracker up here and see. I'm going to turn on a larger grid. Oh no, so 5 foot is about right, I guess. Okay, yeah, because I've changed the grid in mid-size, that's not so good, such a good idea, because I'll get a strange distance. So I'm just going to keep the larger grid, 10 foot, and restart the copy command. That makes it a bit easier. Select it again, do it, and then just grab a point, and that will be 10 foot, 5 foot, and I've actually moved this horizontally, which I did not want. Five foot, there we go. So we've got one track, and if we say the street is wide enough that wagons really keep to a certain side of the street, I'm gonna redo that with a second track and turn off snaps for this one and draw this on the other side of the street, and then do a copy again. Do it, turn on snap, there we are, and I'll probably should be putting in hoof prints and everything, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and add some sheet effects. So I certainly want a bit of a transparency effect, say 75% opacity, and a bit of a blur. Just a very small one, certainly not a 2 foot, just a 0.2 feet. There we go, I don't quite like that. All right. I would probably go in and do stuff like if you the different wagons are weird off a bit, effects like, for example, if I'm going to go this and use the F9 modifier to put the line and then just do a bit of a diversion from that line, I just then need to grab this diversion because obviously the wheels stay in parallel, and do things like that to have a little that not all wagons are going perfectly along the same line, and do more like this over the whole map. Normally it's better because you're copying everything just to do the second track, to do one wheel first and then grab everything you've drawn for that, and because they will have a parallel copy for the other wheel, just copy that for the appropriate distance and have it all copied in one go, otherwise it's a bit more work. And then I'm also going to go in and create a new drawing tool. So furniture town wagon track. This will only be for one side and for one wheel, obviously. And then I'm going to go in and what did I choose for the color? The 34, I think. Fixed width of, what did I do? A half foot. The layer. That's something this time I didn't change, so I'm going to put it on roads fills here. This should be wagon tracks, and the fill style should be solid. And it's an open path, and it should be smooth. And there's my default wagon track. And now I can go in and add more stuff here. For example, if you've got wagons going from one side of the road to the other, then you just grab this and copy it. No, my fault. I did draw it to the wrong track. It should have obviously gone to the other one up there. That was wrong. So let's do it again. Oops. Here we go. I'm using F9 to connecting to an existing track, and then draw it to the matching track on the other side of the street. And now it should be on the correct setting. Oops, I did hit the road there for selection accidentally. And there's the... And this time I did not choose copy, but move accidentally. Wrong command. So copy, do it. And I wanted to show you how to do this without clicking. So what you can do is you can just put in add for a relative coordinate. We are not moving on the copy horizontally, so that's 0, and then a comma. And then I'm moving it 5 feet down, so I put in a -5. And yes, what I did is I put the number for the pickup, put in the numbers when I had the grabbing point, and obviously I need to put it now. No, so add 0, -5. There we are. And there's my wagon veering from one side of the road to the other. And then you'd go in and start placing symbols. For example, if I want to show where the doors are of the buildings, I could put in a partially open door, something like that. Obviously, these are not in City Designer, but we have stuff like this in Dungeon Designer, and we can load up those symbol catalogs. If I just switch here, I get to the different City Designer catalogs, but I can go to Dungeon Designer add-on and click the doors. And here I've got the open doors, and I could now go in here, and I've got the symbols wall sheet, because the symbols want to go on that sheet, but it's not defined in the template, so it just gets added. I'm just going to move that up so it sits below the buildings. Oops. Buildings. And place the door on the where I think it's going to be. And this way we can see, even in this overhead view, where the building door would be. Or I can add some appropriate symbols. We've got some in Dungeon Designer which would be fitting for a town like this. For example, the barrels and crates and stuff. Obviously, there's also a lot of things that are not very suitable. You wouldn't have gold lying around on the street here, though I debate whether you'd have gold lying around in the dungeon on the floor either, but that's another topic. So I'm just gonna grab an empty barrel here, turn off snap, and place it below the or next to the buildings. Or I could go into the furniture, go for a bench or something, a banquet. Here, there's a bench, and place these in front of the houses and work with that. And obvious, but see these the settings here for the sheet are, because they are meant for houses and not for little objects like this. The shadow is way too large on these. So for example, I can go in and make this much smaller. And this would be more fitting. And of course, if you've got a source for Western symbols for things like top-down horses or water troughs or all kinds of different things, you can just upload them into the catalog window here by going to the folder where they're saved and placing them in the map directly. And that's how you'd go about in doing something that's not the default look of your city design. You see you've got the start of a little town scene where with the wooden boardwalks and the wooden houses and the appropriate symbols, wagon tracks. And you can expand on these reusing the drawing tools I've created and the house styles and everything, and build once you've set it all up, the rest will be fairly quick and easy, and you can create a map like this in quite a good short time. Somebody says, yeah, I wish I had gold littering the floor of my home, but nope, I suppose it's just cat hair which litters my floors. All right, and that's our hour of mapping done. I hope you enjoyed my little excursion into modifying a City Designer freestyle and coming up with your own custom drawing tools and house styles and everything. And see you again next week. All the best. Thanks for watching and great maps. Wonderful. Have a good night. Bye-bye.